are different, right?
Traveled the country and has personally visited every county in New York State, listening to people's concerns. The Sharpe Way is a show where answers, solutions, and common ground can be found so that together we can forge a new way forward. The Sharpe Way is the way to mutual respect, where no one has to convert to be heard, because you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want, as long as you aren't forcing your beliefs on others. Welcome to Sharpe Way Radio.
Oh, yes, it is Larry Sharpe here on Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. The number to Paul after the first break, 585-346-3000. You know, a lot of stuff is going on in New York, as always. Every week I come here and I tell you something about what's happening in New York, always. But I very often start it with some type of story or something about me living in this great city and this great state. And I did think of one because of what's happening. Many of you know, if you've listened before, you know I grew up in the Bronx, down by Yankee Stadium. Now, back in the day, in the 70s when I was a kid, giving my age away, but that's when I was a kid. I was born in the 60s, raised in the Bronx in the 70s. And as a little guy, enjoying my life in the Bronx, I remember local things being there that I enjoyed. One of them, by the way, being a movie theater. The theater's gone now. But back in the day, it was a movie theater on 161st Street, right by Yankee Stadium, and it was called The Earl. So anybody who might remember those days, that was the movie theater back then. And you can go there and just watch a movie, right? Pay $1 or $2, go in. And this is back in the day when you could just go in and watch a movie. It wasn't a certain time. You paid the fee and you just sat in the movie theater as long as you wanted to. You could watch the movie once, twice, 4 times. They had little movies in between each one. You didn't go for a time they threw you out. You paid your $2 or whatever it was. Was it like $2? Whatever it was. And you just go in. That was it. And you'd go in the middle of the movie. So like you'd walk in and be like, what happened? I don't know. Somebody's shooting somebody, whatever. Common. Right next to it, or maybe a couple stores down from that movie theater, again, locally owned movie theater, was like a 99-cent store, a Woolworths, a 99-cent store. In the 70s, I remember I had just seen Star Wars, and I thought Star Wars was the greatest movie of all time, as many of us kids did believe so at the time. So next door, they were selling the toys, like the little action figures and the stuff. And I remember something I thought was amazing. In the store was a land speeder. And if you're not a Star Wars geek, you wouldn't know, but the land speeder is the hovering car that they drove around in a Star Wars movie. It's called a land speeder. And I thought, this is the coolest thing. I want to buy this thing. Remember, it was like $9 or something like that. Far out of my price range. So I had to literally save money to go buy this thing. But it was a local store. And I remember having to save money. And then one reason why I saved money is by going to a local candy shop to buy cheap candy when I was a kid. Penny candies, those types of things, right? I would have to go, that's how I'd save some money. So I wouldn't go buy the expensive candy. I'd go to the candy store and get the cheap candy. Just get that. And before you know it, I would be able to go there and buy my land speeder. Those days are long gone. You might go, well, they're gone everywhere, Larry. Yes. But New York had been holding on to local stores for decades, longer than most places upstate New York. Upstate New York, it was much harder to hold on to local stores. New York City, it seemed to be something we could handle, we could do. That's going away. The idea of me going to some local store and buying a land speeder is imaginary now. The idea of me going to a locally owned movie theater and watching a movie, I mean, virtually unheard of. Very hard to find. You go, Larry, why do you care? Because those localized stores, those localized ownership businesses is what makes America strong. Am I exaggerating here? I'm not. And as we watch those go away, particularly in New York, our biggest city in the entire country, And we watch them walking away like there's no tomorrow, packing up and leaving. This is a secondary piece here. For a kid like me, growing up in the South Bronx, a very poor neighborhood, it actually wasn't any type of food or any type of product desert at all, right? There was literally a fish market around the corner. I think it was on Girard Street. I think that's right. No, Girard Avenue, I think it was. There was actually a fish store. You can go buy fish. There was a butcher, right? Big stuff. You could do whatever you wanted. You could go buy fresh food, actual fresh food. No worries when I was a kid. 70s in poor neighborhoods. Absolutely. Poor neighborhoods you could buy, but now we're starting to have it. And Cuomo brought it up as an excuse for his horrible way of dealing with the lockdowns. He said, well, you know, there's deserts and there's hospital healthcare deserts and stuff. He would say those types of things. I remember my doctor was 2 streets away on Grand Concourse. There was a doctor's office there. You just go there to your doctor when I was a kid. 2 blocks. You'd walk to your doctor and you didn't have to have a crazy appointment. You call that day and you go. When I was a kid in a poor neighborhood, and again, the neighborhood I grew up in was in the Bronx, where there were gangs, where they filmed the movie Serpico about the corrupt cops. Right, the Bronx, Fort Apache, the Bronx. Remember the movie? And then the cheesy movie, The Warriors, was in the Bronx. That's where I grew up. And every single case, it was not a food desert, a product desert, an entertainment desert. I had Yankee Stadium across the street. I had a movie theater. I had what I wanted. 2 parks that were safe I could play in as a kid. I played by myself in parks as a 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old. 7-year-old, 8-year-old. Played in parks. No problem. This is all going away. And here's the harshest part. When it goes away, you're finding people say the answer is more law. The answer is hammer people more or raise more taxes or whatever the case may be. In no case is the answer support the entrepreneur. Because once we say support the entrepreneur, that's when someone goes, oh, you mean Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk? That's not what I'm talking. These guys are fine. They don't need my help. They don't need your help. They're good. Literally, if their businesses went under tomorrow, they're still not starving. They'll be fine. They're not going to be on the corner selling pencils. They'll be fine. But the local entrepreneur won't be. And the laws we make to stop capitalism or to stop the entrepreneur, we think somehow we're hammering Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. No. We're hammering some small business owner who's had a store in New York City for 30 or 40 years. And the hardest thing for me to deal with right now is to watch this generational wealth go away. We have heard the wealth gap all the time. Hear it every day. Yet we keep doing things to get rid of more generational wealth. How did people move out of poor economic situation? It was entrepreneurship. That's what it was. Now it's they don't, or the black market, or it's 3 or 4 or 5 jobs. How is that the answer? Well, guess what? It isn't. That's the entire reason why this is getting worse. Supporting local stores, supporting local businesses, supporting small businesses, supporting small stores is the answer to the wealth gap. Not less tax, more tax. No, doesn't matter. I'll tax the rich more. They'll leave. They'll hide their money. They'll buy Congress. I'll tax less. Great. They'll still find a way to do fines and fees on the poor people. We see that constantly. We see it in New York City. We see it with things like congestion pricing, tax on the poor. We see it in how we deal with the subways, tax on the poor. So you can lower taxes even. And I'm a libertarian. You think I'd be screaming about lowering taxes. They find a way anyway. Why aren't we supporting the small businesses? Why aren't we supporting entrepreneurs and don't care about Jeff Bezos? I don't care how you pronounce his name. He'll be fine. He's not mad at me. He's not listening to the show. He's fine. Or Elon Musk. I don't care about them. I care about a business that's been around for 30, 40, 50 years, that families have eaten off of, sent their kids to school on, gone on vacation on, and had good lives on, going away and being bought by a franchise, by some guy or gal who already owns 2 or 3 franchises, maybe 4 or 5. Now he owns another, or a corporate store. But I got to go one step further. Once we get rid of all the small businesses, now we are reliant upon the big ones. So when they give us orders, we must comply. And if we don't comply, there's no alternative. So what is the alternative? They leave. And that's the thing we see now in New York. As we thought we could punish all the small businesses and put in all the franchises, which we've been doing. Now the franchises say do X, Y, and Z. We say no. Then they leave. And when they leave, what do we now have? Deserts. Now we have deserts. Try now in my same neighborhood to go get fresh produce. Not so easy. Try now in most poor neighborhoods in New York City to get fresh produce, fresh food. Not so easy anymore. Not so easy anymore. Try to find a local owned store. There's some. There's a few, but not many. Try to find people who own things in these local areas. You're going to struggle. The guy who owns it, he lives in Connecticut. The guy who owns it lives in Jersey. The guy who owns it lives in Florida. Doesn't live here in New York. He bought it. Someone else runs it. He gets his cut and he leaves. This is a problem. We're seeing it in New York City. We're seeing it across the state. And remember something. Whatever happens in New York, no matter where you live in this country, it's coming to you. It might take some time. It's coming. Am I crazy? Am I wrong? Tell me. 585-346-3000. Larry Sharpe, Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. Back with your calls and your chat. I see you and a lot of you guys watched that movie, The Warriors. That's awesome. We'll deal with all of that after the break.
Introducing a sobering and unavoidable truth. The latest advancements in artificial intelligence have made cyber attacks easier than ever before. Cyber criminals are relentlessly targeting your business right now, seeking the tiniest opening in your defenses to drain your accounts and steal sensitive data. Your finances and your customers' trust.
And we have no phone desert here. We have Keith.
Simple Tech Innovations now at 585-999-TECH to secure your business today. Don't wait until it's too late. Make the call today. 585-999-TECH.
To live the quality of life we deserve in truth and freedom, informed by our Constitution, our laws, and traditions, we need to pick the best leaders possible. Recent experience certainly illustrates that. Free and accurate elections are essential if we're going to restore our society and safeguard our rights. New York Citizens Audit is a volunteer, nonpartisan group which has been lobbying for open source audits of the State Board of Elections and reform of the electoral process statewide. Did you know Citizens Audit has uncovered over 1 million felony violations of election law? That in 2020, there were 625,000 more voter registrations than existing voting age citizens in just 6 New York counties, that there were 338,000 more votes cast than voters who voted. These are just a few shocking examples of the urgent process statewide. Did you know Citizens Audit has uncovered auditny.com and learn the facts, how to volunteer, and make a difference in your community. Again, volunteer, donate, or spread the word. Start at auditny.com. That's auditny.com.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Yes, I am back. Larry Sharpe, Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. 585-346-3000 is the number. I'm going to grab a call. Keith, how are you, sir?
Well, here we go. I don't give out false compliments. You're a good man, Mr. Larry Sharpe. But
Thank you.
well, here, as they always say, everything before "but" is a lie. So here goes. All of us are coming at this way late. Everyone in the audience, we now have become a country of oligarchs. You could easily enough substitute the term robber barons. So this is where we have the common ground. I very conservative, and Mr. Sharpe's caller from New York, in his own words, Roger, self-described socialist. It's cut the bus, everyone, has come and left us all. We now are put upon by these heavily vested interests that are not going to share with the rest of us. That probably right there is what differentiates Roger from me. Roger hangs in there. I don't. I'm a true outlier. So not to go long, we have to beat back the robber barons, the oligarchs, and I want to bring up, because I'm always concerned, and here goes, Mr. Sharpe, I still don't understand what's on your libertarian platform. Everyone listen, across the state, we have lost 20,000 volunteer fire people. That's going to become a real headache. You don't lose in 62 counties a total of 20,000 volunteer fire people, firemen, and not have them replaced. It's a big headache. They want to bring in unionized firemen companies. We can't have that. The state is trying to centralize everything. You mentioned Cuomo. They want to knock down at the local level elections and have everything dictated from the state, just like the Democrats 100%. Want everything dictated nationally. So to sum this up, if you, Mr. Sharpe, are going to have a true libertarian platform, whether it's the loss of 20,000 volunteer fire people, and now that the oligarchs are firmly in place, we either beat them back, the Rogers and Keiths of the world, or goodbye America, because we are now robber baron.
You, as always, Keith, you give me a lot to chew on. So let me try to touch a couple of these. One, the oligarch. You are 100% correct. It's clear. It's clear. And the oligarchs aren't only in dollars. They are in dollars, clearly, but they're also oligarchs in political power, too. Also, information age, also that, too. So there are several types of oligarchs. And I brought this up in another show, but you find this being true because oligarchic nations, and there are many of them, tend to have more people live near the capital. Because to be an oligarch, to your point, you have to have centralized control. That's the whole part of being an oligarch, right? So the government has to help you, because you have the monopoly, or a big chunk of the monopoly if it's a oligarchy, right, on either money or power or something. The government has the monopoly on force. So you have to be in bed with the government. The government has to be in bed with you so that you can now become a true oligarchy. So you are correct. Absolutely. That's happening at our national level. And sadly, in many states, New York being a perfect example of that, right? Our New York state goes out of its way to support big business in every case, to support centralization in every case. They are trying nothing but that, because that solidifies oligarchs, so that each kingdom now can have its own kingdom, while the emperor in DC can rule the kingdoms through them, can enforce the emperor's will. 100% true. How do libertarians deal with that? Not through more government, but through what I've been saying. And for those of you who don't know, I've had it on my website, LarrySharpe.com. I've had it on my website for literally years. 6 years. I've been talking about ways of changing all these things. I've been talking about the idea of localization, talking about the idea of ending unfunded mandates, all these ideas. And you might say, well, Larry, how can you make that happen in a state like New York? You have to win an election. And that's not easy. That's super hard. Ballot access, which we're failing at right now as we speak. Being able to get on a ballot, being able to get people to raise money. We're failing at that as we speak. It's not looking good, Keith. All I can tell you is I know I'm right. How do I know I'm right? Because both Democrats and Republicans have both conspired to make sure that I cannot be on the ballot, to make sure that my party is removed from the ballot, and to make sure we're never on ever again. They're not spending money showing how good they are, telling people how good they are, or even telling people how bad I am. They spend money hundreds of thousands of dollars, to them nothing, to me a lot of money, to the average New Yorker a lot of money, to make sure that me and others are not on the ballot. So how do I fix it? I don't know. I need more people to believe in me. I need more people to run for office. I need people to fight this system. If they're not, I can't stop it. But are my ideas the right ones? Of course they are. If they weren't, nobody would care. If my ideas were garbage, they'd let me be on the ballot, wouldn't say a damn thing. How do I know? Because they copy my talking points. They use my talking points, but they don't do what I actually tell them to do. I brought up many ways of solving these problems again and again and again. Ways of supporting entrepreneurs. And I'll give you one of the ideas. How about if you are a local entrepreneur, whatever type of entrepreneur or farmer, and you agree to not sell outside of New York State, you are immune from all federal regulatory bodies. Wyoming already does this. We can do it too. You do that.
We lost call.
Person a chance. Everyone has a chance who's local of growing, so that you can do it. It's just not easy. So I'm sorry. I hope I answered your question, Keith. I think you're right. Oligarchs are true. Let me give you maybe a simpler answer real fast. When we have a Goliath, a lot of people want to knock down the Goliath. I'm not against that concept. The problem is another Goliath steps up. I don't want to knock down that Goliath to put in my Goliath. What I want is to create so many Davids, armies of Davids, that no matter what Goliath comes up, he can always be knocked down. Because there are so many. And every David that gets up that wants to become a Goliath, we can knock him down too. I want armies of Davids, not better Goliaths. I hope at least that answers your question, Keith. All right, let me grab a couple of comments if I could. Let's see here. Michael Voss is here. He says, we had the Melba Theater on Boston Road, had all the Kung Fu movies. Five Deadly Venoms was the first movie I ever saw there with my dad. Mike, you have just made me realize that we had the same thing. In the Earl, that's what it was called, they had all the Kung Fu movies and the Godzilla monster movies that would show. I saw, it's going to be a throwback for some of you, I saw Sonny Chiba movies there, and I also saw Bruce Lee movies. Yes, all the old Kung Fu movies out of Japan and out of Hong Kong. Saw them all the time. I do remember that. That's very true. Yes. All right. So Kaiwan says, I'm hearing a lot of independents left this not liking the squad. What do you think of this? This is a big point, right? And I think this helps us. And this may tickle Keith. It might tickle Keith. A lot of the people who said they were left, like the AOC of the world and the squads, have actually turned their back on the actual left. They have become corporate left, right? And in my view, corporate left is actually worse. I know some people, if you're more conservative, you might think far left is worse. I don't. I think far left is at least open and honest. They at least tell you what they want. You can have an actual conversation. Corporate left just lies to you. They have a left-leaning rhetoric, right? So it sounds like the real left, but they just do corporate stuff. They just join the oligarchs. So I think there is an opportunity for people who are angry. And I think Keith kind of brought this up as he's saying, him and Roger do overlap on certain ideas. I think to knock down the Goliath, we can join. Now, after it's over, we're going to squabble over what we want to do afterwards. But let's knock down Goliath first and then have that squabble. We all think the oligarchs are bad. I think that could be something, right? So let me go back. Mike says one more thing. I remember when the Bronx neighborhood had a butcher, ice cream shop, toy store, record albums, hardware, all within 5 blocks or less. Now the same area just has weed, bodega, women's hair care. Wow. I hate that you're right, but you are. I remember toy stores where I went to get a thing. Record, my father used to buy records. Yes, in the same block that we lived. Oh my God. Back in the day, my friend, back in the day. All righty, are we crazy? Are we reminiscing too much? Did I even talk about the firefighters? I probably should. You can let me know. Larry Sharpe here, Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York, 585-346-3000. Back with your calls and your chat after the break.
I can one better you. In my small town of Avon, we also had a train and hobby store because I was into model trains. So it was so handy for me. I ride my bike down and pick up an accessory or piece of rolling stock.
Welcome, Olean.
WYSL.
Proud
Gotcha.
to be your local
Hang on.
talk station for great conservative all-American programming.
Here's the new 10 NBC forecast on WYSL. For overnight tonight, we start off clear, but clouds will increase through the overnight period, low of 38. We'll see clouds continue to build through the morning hours.
Okay,
and
we
into
got
the
caller
afternoon on
Mikey.
Wednesday.
It called
Showers
before,
will
but his
arrive by
call
noontime
dropped.
on Wednesday, and those will continue through the afternoon and into the evening. High temperature 57. Scattered showers expected to continue for Wednesday night, low of 49. I'm First Alert Meteorologist Alex Bielfeld on your WYSL stations.
Your go-to for standard of specialized business insurance coverage. MGM Associates of Rochester, now serving the region and beyond in New York. Since 1984, MGM has provided
Okay, so we
leading
have Mike
coverage
on
from
the
a wide
line, then
range
we
of
have another
carriers,
call
not
after
only
him.
home,
Jim?
condo, boat, motorcycle, and auto, but also
Yeah, but,
specialized policies for all
you know, I
types
grew
of
up in a
businesses,
small
including
town,
nonprofits
and,
law firms,
you
livery
know, the funny
insurance,
thing is
property
I'd have to
insurance,
save
and
up my
bonds for all
pennies,
needs.
nickels,
MGM
dimes, and
Associates
so
of
on and so
Rochester
forth.
provides auto, workers' comp,
And what's funny
healthcare,
is
and
I would go
liability
to the
coverage. Choose
local
from virtual
small
appointments or
independent,
good
you know,
old
hobby
in-office,
store.
in-person consults by appointment at our
And
Penfield office.
the problem
5
was
time
I
consecutive
was,
winner of
you
the
know,
National Best
limited to
Practices
whatever
Award.
they
MGM is
had,
proud
and
to
so
support
I would
veterans
save up
groups and
money.
your personal
Then I'd
business
buy
or
whatever
individual
I could
insurance
afford
needs.
at
Meet
the time.
experienced
You can
staff at
relate, I'm
MGM
sure.
Associates,
Just
locally
like with
and
Star
proudly
Wars
owned at
characters.
1745 Penfield Road in Penfield, 381-7008, or mgminsure.com. An associate of United Frontier Mutual Insurance.
Well, and
190 Davison Road,
I used to buy a
Lockport,
lot
New
of my
York.
stuff. We had a couple department stores that happened to be in the same storefront. You know, unfortunately, several went out of business. First, we had a Grant City. They went bankrupt. Then we had Barker's. They went bankrupt. Then King's Department Store. And finally, Fisher's Big Wheel. I don't know if you ever went to a Fisher's Big Wheel. But they were big, like in the New England Northeast area, Pennsylvania.
Lease a new
But,
Chevy Silverado 2FL
but
4x4
once again, you know, I would go to the store and get whatever I could afford. Yeah, you can relate. You know, kids nowadays almost have it too good.
Any local competitor's Chevy offer. For
I mean, I remember, and I'm sure you do too, you go to buy a 45 record, they were locked up in a case. You had to stick your hand in a little circle, pull out the record, drop it, get a clerk to open the little door at the bottom to get the record you wanted to buy.
Together, let's drive.
Do you remember that?
Introducing a sobering and unavoidable truth. The latest
Yeah, but they
advancements
were
in
always under lock and
artificial
key because people would,
intelligence
you know,
have made
stick them under their
cyber
jacket and
attacks
steal them.
easier
Same with
than
8
ever
tracks.
before. Cyber criminals are relentlessly targeting your business right now, seeking the tiniest
And
opening
8 tracks
in
were
your
conceived
defenses
out of
to drain
the same
your
broadcast
accounts and
cartridges
steal
that we still
sensitive
use.
data.
If it ain't
Your
broke, don't fix
finances
it.
and your customers' trust are on the line. Call the experts at Simple Tech Innovations now at 585-999-TECH to secure your business today. Don't wait until it's too late. Make the call today. 585-999-TECH.
It's post time. The Kentucky Derby is Saturday, May 4th. Advanced wagering's available on May 3rd. Be sure to watch, wager, and win at your local OTB or EasyBet or online at BataviaBets.com. Visit WesternOTB.com for a location near you. You can also check out the Derby parties at Batavia Downs Gaming. See their Facebook page for details. That's the Kentucky Derby at OTB.
Batavia down with more. Lots more.
By the way, I Googled it. I knew the original Star Wars was in theaters for like 2 years.
The latest varieties of seltzers
Officially,
and
it was
ciders,
in
White
theaters
Claw,
on the
High
first
Noon,
run
Lee Brothers,
for
Sunny D vodka,
135
Malibu cocktails,
weeks.
and more. Great for parties or taking a cooler on the go.
Yeah, it is.
Mention WYSL, buy 3 or more packs and save 5%. All Seasons is open daily, including Sunday 10 to 6. Voted best liquor store in Livingston County 2 years in a row. All Seasons Wine and Spirits, East Main Street, Avon.
Baskin Livestock's success in recycling food waste into animal feed comes from a focus on growth and a belief that there's value in what others are tempted to discard. Their bank feels the same. While other financial institutions cycle through business relationships, Tompkins Bank knows the best things are worth preserving and lead to long-term growth. Tompkins, your bank of choice. Find out more at tompkinsbank.com.
Don't sweat this summer. Upgrade to Amana AC with unbeatable rebates. Pick up your phone and call Turnbull Heating and Air right now at 501-9100. 501-9100 for 24/7 service. Keep cool and save big.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Yes, it is Larry Sharpe, WYSL, Rochester, New York, Sharpe Way Radio. 585-346-3000 is the number to call. And I do have a couple of calls, which is great. Always happy to have them. First, if I could grab Mike. Mike, how are you, sir?
Larry, Warriors, come out and play.
You got to have the clink, though. Hold on, the clink. There we go.
Oh, I didn't have the bottle. Sorry. Got to have the clink. Dude, you brought back memories. I was
Yes.
in New York City. I was down in by I think it's the Lower East Side, Bellevue Hospital. My grandparents lived there. That movie came out, and me and a couple of the people from that neighborhood I was friends with at the time, we decided after watching the movie 5 or 6 times in a couple days span, we jumped on the train. Somebody had come from Rochester who didn't have subways like that. Jumped on the train and went all the way out to Coney Island.
Coney Island, of course you did. Of course you did. We all did. We all went to Coney Island. Of course we did.
We went to Coney Island. I had been to Coney Island before, but as a younger kid, my grandparents would take me out there. Me, my younger brother, and my older sister, we go to Coney Island. Every couple of years we go visit the grandparents, and we go to Coney Island. But when you brought back all the little stores along the way, that was one of my fondest memories of New York. Is all the little different stores along the way, and even the places in Times Square in the late 70s, all the Army surplus stores and the martial arts places.
Absolutely. Okay, let me ask you a quick trivia question. I got people teasing me in the chat. They're doing the old, can you dig it? Do you remember the name of the bad guy in that movie? What was his name?
Cyrus.
Yes, Cyrus. Look at that. Trivia. You win.
Can you dig it?
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. My friend, thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate the call.
All right, no problem. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Yes, The Warriors is still a cult classic for those who haven't seen it. If you haven't seen the movie, it is a campy movie, but it's an interesting movie how people saw New York City in the 70s. So if you ever want to get on, take an hour and a half, watch a cute movie. I think it's worth watching. I've still watched it recently with my daughter. I thought it was kind of cool. Let me grab on the call if I could. This is Jim. Jim, how are you, sir?
Hey, good, Larry. How you doing? I just want to say you, along with Rand Paul, are very smart people. I was a Democrat when I was younger, and I changed to the Republican Party, and now I'm I would say independent, but New York State won't let me be an independent, so now I got to be no.
Correct.
Yes. I have had, when you were running for governor, I had a lot of petitions signed for you to be able to be on the ballot, and we were completely ignored.
Yep.
That tells me that the entire state of New York is corrupt. I've lived here all my life. I grew up in Monroe County. Now I live down in Steuben County, thank God. And I'm about a mile away from my closest neighbor. But you got a lot of wise comments. You are a very smart person.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
I wish they would have put you on the ballot for governor. It's awful. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, I got to tell you, if we could have gotten the ballot in 2022, literally there would have been some change in New York. And you might say, Larry, why? It's not because I would have won. I mean, maybe I would have, who knows? But the odds are I wasn't going to win. But I would have been able to get people to hear what I had to say. And I wouldn't talk to thousands or tens of thousands of people. I'd have been talking to millions. And more people would have heard what I had to say. And I would have inspired more people to run and make change. What Keith was talking about earlier only works if more of us decide that it makes sense and we have to get together and fix things. Guys like me who yap all day, that's what I'm good at. That's like my skill set. That's why I do this. So I would be out there more and more. And we're failing at this And it's because the system knows it and they're fighting it. In fact, this is a little bit off, but it's kind of on. What I mean by that is look at what the Democratic Party is doing. They have put $1 billion, I'm not making this up, $1 billion to stop third parties. Not to have better messaging, not to pay people to have better policies, not to fix things, maybe not to fix our subway or our infrastructure. No. This is to make sure they can use the law to crush small parties, third parties. So I think you're totally right, Jim.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. I see that happening all over the place, and it's just so corrupt. But one thing, I'm not leaving. I'm staying and fighting.
I'm trying, Jim. I haven't left yet. And I live in the belly of the beast. I'm with you, my friend.
I know you are, and I'm staying and fighting, and I agree with you 100% on your issues. And yes, there would have been change if you would have at least got on the ballot. There would have been a lot of change in New York because you could have been heard, and I think more New Yorkers could have been heard because there's a lot of people that don't like either party that are going more towards Libertarian Party. It's leave me alone and I'll leave you alone.
100%. 100%. And the biggest piece is if a guy like me is hooping and hollering, if you notice, one thing I try my best to do is keep my ears and my mind open to people who disagree with me. So if you're unhappy, you can still talk to me. I'm not going to shut you out. You know, a lot of conservatives in New York like me. And I'm not a conservative. I'm a libertarian. But why do conservatives like me? Because I respect conservatives. I listen to them. And I want to leave them alone and let them be conservative. I don't want to punish them. It's that simple.
It's very simple. And nobody seems to understand that you leave me alone, I leave you alone, and let's not have this infighting. I have friends that are Democrats, and I'm still trying to understand why they vote that way. I'm still trying to understand some of my Republican friends, why they're that far on the other side. Let's all come in the middle. Let's join, and let's get some common ground here. This has become ridiculous.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Jim, thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it, my friend.
Yes, Larry, you're a good man. Thank you.
So, yeah, I guess I can complain all day, but it's not going to make anything better. So I'm going to keep trying to say, look, we have to push this thing forward. We can't stop. Grace says, oh, we have food deserts in the Midwest. I think we have them all over, right? Grace says it's because of Targets and Walmarts. And that may be true. I don't really know that area very well, but I believe you, Grace. I know that in New York City, it's not that. What's creating the deserts in New York City is several things. Horrible policy that makes rents so high people can't afford it. There are so many rents in New York City, if you're a store, that are over 5 figures a month for tiny stores. If you were to pay 5 figures a month for rent in many parts of this country, you basically have a strip mall to yourself. I'm talking a hole in a wall where like 7 people can fit. You pay like 10, 12, 14 grand a month in rent. It's crazy. So number one. But number two, believe it or not, shoplifting. Violent crime in New York actually has gone down. That may sound crazy for some of you, but a lot of violent crime has actually gone down since the lockdowns. The lockdowns, it was a zoo. It was horrible, right? Since the lockdowns, violent crime has gone down. That's true. And it's gone up and down here, but it hasn't been as bad. What has become bad when it comes to violent crime is random violent crime. Like gang warfare has gone down. And one of the reasons why it's gone down a bit is because theft has gone up so much. They're making money, right? Gangs, believe it or not, don't want violence. The reason why, I'm not saying gangs are good. I'm just saying what's real. Gangs don't want violence. Gangs want to make money. That's what they're there for. They want to make money. If they have to use violence to make money, they'll use violence. They don't have a problem with it. They would just rather just make money. And right now, New York City has said, oh, you just want to rob stuff? Go ahead. We don't mind. You do you. And that's what they're doing. So again, if you're a massive company, you can withstand a whole lot more. You're a small company, you're a small business, you're finished. And they're leaving. But now it goes back to my other point I brought up in the first segment. Once the little guys leave, Once the families leave, now all you have then in the residential area is renters only. Families begin to walk out. Ownership begins to leave. And then to service them, you only have big business, franchises and such. Well, when the franchises get tired from shoplifting, they leave. Well, when they leave, what happens? There's nothing there. That is where our deserts come from in the city. Now, again, outside the city, it may be the Walmarts and Targets, but in the city, it is that. It is things. We've actually had malls shut down in New York City. And a mall for us is basically like, a large block or a corner. That's a mall in New York City. They shut down. We're done. We can't survive anymore. We're done. No one will come. We keep getting shoplifted. Done. And the sad part is we only have two options, which is the wrong options. Option number one from the left or from the Democrats. I shouldn't say left. I'll say Democrats, Republicans. Democrats will say, well, there's no real problem. Just give people more money and then they won't steal because everybody's stealing because they're hungry. That's the Democrat answer. The Republican answer is more cops, more punishment, more longer jail sentences. The real answer was bail reform only for first-time offenders. Because I keep saying this. I'm like a broken record, but I don't care. I'm going to keep saying it. The vast majority of this crime is done by repeat offenders. Like 80%, it's a massive amount, is done by repeat offenders. So if you just have bail reform for a first-time offender, if someone made a mistake, screwed up, wants to change their life around, was arrested or something by mistake, whatever, they get a shot. Good, you should. But you've been doing this 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 times? And I think I told you this. Some of these people have been arrested, the average, 15 times. Just handle that. You don't have to add any more penalties. You don't have to add any more cops. You don't have to give anybody any more money. None of that stuff. More cops and more punishment. They're still out on the street. So now after that 15th arrest, they might go away for a couple of years, whatever. We're going to let them out anyway. That isn't the answer. I gave you the answer, but you just won't listen. The oligarchs have us exactly where they want us, Keith. I think you are right. I'm trying to fight them. It's just not easy. You can help me if you want to by watching this show and sharing it and telling people about it. It's Larry Sharpe on Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York, 585-346-3000. Back with more of your chat and your calls after the break.
Introducing a sobering and unavoidable truth. The latest advancements in artificial intelligence have made cyber attacks easier than ever before. Cyber criminals are relentlessly targeting your business right now, seeking the tiniest opening in your defenses to drain your accounts and steal sensitive data. Your finances and your customers' trust are on the line. Call the experts at Simple Tech Innovations now at 585-999-TECH to secure your business today. Don't wait until it's too late. Make the call today. 585-999-TECH.
While many local collision and repair shops have been gobbled up by national chains with their impersonal touch, Flower City Collision remains locally owned and operated. The shop was started by a local veteran who taught his son Zach the basics in customer service and providing customers value. Flower City doesn't work with a specific insurance company. They want to be your advocate. If you need a repair, reach out to Zach at Flower City Collision in Henrietta. He will work with your national insurance company on your local behalf to ensure you get the repair you need done right.
Avon Gun and Hunting Supply, a locally owned and operated gun shop here for your hunting needs. With changes in
All right, we have Roger.
Work with you to fulfill your needs. Open from 10 a.m. Tuesday through Saturday. Avon Gun, East Main Street, next to Tompkins Community Bank.
Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten Free Bakery has a great deal on Tuesdays. A large 4-topping pizza for $18, regular or gluten-free. Call 226-9575. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten Free Bakery in Avon.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Oh, yes, it is Larry Sharpe. Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. So happy that you're giving me a chunk of your afternoon. We have been talking about how things in New York City have been failing. Localized people have been leaving, but not just now New York City, throughout other areas. We've been talking about how the rents are insane, how police reform is insane. All these things are happening, and they're coming to you. And of course, we talked about the Bronx in the 70s and the cult classic movie, The Warriors. Let me grab a call. We mentioned his name 3 times, so he had to appear. We have Roger. How are you, sir?
Good. Larry, I'm going to try to fly through this as fast as I can. One, Cyrus was not a bad guy. The guy who shot him was. Cyrus was trying to bring the gangs together.
Yes, brother. Yes, you are. You know what? I stand corrected. You are right. Yes.
2, to Michael Voss's point, you guys watched Kung Fu movies in the theaters in the 1970s. Us Generation X teenagers watched them on Channel 5 in the 80s. That's why, also going back to the first point, in hip-hop for the past 40 years, you've heard warrior references in New York hip-hop music. 3, to the more important point, Larry, I am all for helping mom-and-pop shops, mid-sized businesses, even franchises, but that is not how you narrow or close the wealth and income inequality gap. The way you narrow it is to help workers by promoting a minimum wage that says 15% of what you get from the minimum wage monthly is enough to cover a 1-bedroom apartment and provide a permanent tax subsidy to small to mid-sized businesses plus mom and pop shops and franchises to cover 85 to 100% of their labor costs so they don't feel the impact of that minimum wage hike. Also, you narrow it by cracking down on union busting while strengthening collective bargaining power. Now, the way you close the wealth and income inequality gap is through robust, heavy investment in worker cooperative ownership, because when the workers own the business and supply chains, they have the power to decide as a group what they wish to do it, and you just close that wealth gap. 4, Larry, I figured out a way to discombobulate the effect of lobbyists in Washington, D.C. Have you ever heard of Cisco telepresence?
No, I have not.
Okay, so here's the thing. The reason why lobbyists have so much power in D.C. is because they live in D.C., okay?
Yeah.
We can't go to D.C., okay? If you live in Alaska, if you live in Hawaii, imagine going to D.C. to protest. They'll be like, they're here for a day, but they don't have really that much
That's what I said. In oligarchic societies, they all live by the Capitol. You're right.
Exactly. So this is what you do. Cisco telepresence allows you to do hologram meetings, where you are in one location and the camera is pointing at you. They render you, right? They render your image and likeness and send you through the internet, and then you pop out of a projector on the other side where it looks like you're in the room with everybody else. Do that. Have that in every single congressional district and state for U.S. senators across the country. Then when they got to do their work, they just go on the Cisco telepresence, but they stay in their districts. This breaks and does a trust bust of the lobbyists in Washington, D.C. So now those lobbyists have to divide their forces and come to the districts where the constituents are, and now they're like, you're in our backyard now.
So let me try to, you gave me a lot. You're worse than Keith today. Keith usually gives me a lot. You gave me even more. All right, let me try to go through a couple of these. Number 1, I am all about co-op ownership. I think ownership is a wonderful idea. And I think that most people don't get that one of the problems with co-ops is a cultural issue. There are still a lot of people, bankers, entrepreneurs, business owners, who believe there's no way co-ops will survive and work, and that they're only for like hippies to lose money. I think we have to your point, have government treat co-ops the same as small businesses to give them more respect so they can actually do what they need to do to make success. I'm with you on that. I'm not sure the way I agree, but I get what you're saying. If we have robust unions, which I agree with, if we have co-op ownership, why would we require a minimum wage? If you have co-op ownership, you decide it on your own, you're the owner. If we have strong unions are able to fight with their employers, and create the wages that are required. I feel like minimum wage if you have union busting, as you said, or stronger unions, if you have more co-op ownership, I feel like minimum wage becomes a useless place to put a bar that doesn't matter. In other words, if the government says the bar is $10 an hour, that's where I start my negotiating because that's the bar. Versus if I have ownership and or I have a strong union, I put the bar wherever I want. We're all in this together. Last part is the lobbyists. The easiest way to deal with lobbyists, simplest way, quickest way, is immediately to create a flat tax with no exceptions. Just no exceptions. Whatever that number is, I'm making up because the church takes 10%, so the government takes 10%. I'm making that number up. 10% flat tax, period. Did you make the money? Great. Times 0.10, pay that. That's it. The reason why lobbyists spend so much time in DC is almost always for the same thing. Over 89% for the same thing. It's taxes. They're there to make tax exceptions, tax changes, tax giveaways. Taxes are a huge reason why they're there. So number one, change tax code to mean 10%, period. I don't care how you got it. I don't care where you spend it, 10%. It would put the accountants in a big bind. A lot of the tax accountants will go away. They'll deal with it. And all the lobbyists, at least half of them would go away tomorrow. Because that isn't the only reason why. It's a major reason why is taxes. Second piece, you simply say, you wean every single subsidy off and say it is unconstitutional for a government to pick winners and losers. No corporate subsidies ever. Put it in the Constitution as an amendment. No corporate subsidies ever, no exception. You do those two things, you will cut lobbyists by 90% literally within 30 days. There's no reason to lobby. If I can't get tax breaks and I can't get subsidies, why am I lobbying in DC? It would take away so much power. It would make things a whole lot less corrupt, and it would give the average person a better shot at getting what they want. Are you still on, Roger, or I lose you?
I'm still here. Can you hear
2
me?
minutes.
Yeah.
Can you hear
Does
me?
that make sense, at least what I said?
Yeah, I mean, I'm to the left, so I disagree on the flat tax. I believe in a progressive tax. However, let's settle this on the ballot. Make New York State a citizen ballot initiative state.
Yes.
We need to promote direct democracy because representative democracy has proven to be an absolute, abject, and utter failure.
I'm not saying you're wrong. Roger, I appreciate the call, my friend. Thank you so much.
All right.
That was a good call. Keith threw a lot at me. Roger threw more at me. Usually Keith throws more at me than Roger, usually. This time, Roger threw more at me than Keith did. So that was kind of interesting. I like that. That was good. John says, Cyrus is the one who said the line, but the villain's name was Luther, leader of the Rogues. Oh, right. Yes, thank you. Luther. Luther was the bad guy. John, you are right. You and Roger are correct. I messed up. Cyrus was the good guy. The villain was Luther. And he's the guy who had the bottles going, Warrior, come out to play. Correct. Sorry, I do appreciate that. And I accept that I was wrong. I stand corrected. Guys, The Warriors is a great movie. New York City can still be a great city. New York State can still be a great state. We have to find ways to fix it, and we've got to band together. I want to say thank you so much for giving me a chunk of your afternoon. I will see you all very soon.